So I recently went to BMW to buy a brand new BMW M car. I was considering things like an M3 Saloon, an M3 Touring, maybe an Alpina of some kind. Then suddenly, to my surprise, they handed me the keys to a brand new BMW.
They're for me.
They're for you, Calvin. Pleasure doing business.
Yeah. Thank you very much, mate.
Congratulations.
This key is for this BMW M2 here.
They'd given me the keys so I could have the car for a few days to see what I thought of it. But the question is, did I even like it? And for the circa £70,000 price tag, will I be buying one? Let's find out.
Now, the new BMW G87 M2. Now, there's a lot to be said for driving a brand new car, especially someone like me who's actually never ever driven. I must have driven a brand new car, but I feel like this is the freshest car I've ever driven. It's done 800 miles, it's done a little bit more than that now. When I was at the showroom, if we rewind back to when I picked it up at the beginning of the week, when I first got in it, in fact, we filmed it. I'll cut to a scene now. Oh my God, this is the freshest car I've ever driven. Like 801 miles currently showing on the odometer, fresh. Has it got petrol? It's got a little bit. Should we get petrol first? We'll get petrol, then we'll hit the road, and I'll be back with you lot shortly in a few days' time, letting you know how the next few days went in the M2. Before we start talking about the car itself, let's talk about the journey of the BMW M2. So it started off with the BMW 1M. That was an iconic car, really short, stocky, wide, quite a special car as well. They made limited numbers of them, and that was a really, really cool thing. It then went from the 1M to the M2, which was essentially the same car, but BMW brought out the 2 Series and then they launched the M2, and that was always known, or still is known, as the OG M2. That had the N55 engine under the bonnet, that ran about 360 horsepower. Really, really good car that was. I absolutely love them. I've driven a few of them. I've actually had a couple as well, and yeah, I really like them. They then facelifted it and brought out the M2 Competition, which had the S55 from the BMW M4s. That's a 3 litre straight 6 twin turbo engine, whereas the N55 had a single turbo. So all of the cars from the original one to today have all got straight 6 turbocharged engines. The M2 Competition, I actually done a video on one of them. It was about a 2019 car, and I was so impressed with that car. They run at about 400 brake horsepower, so we've gone from 360 to 400 brake horsepower, and I absolutely loved it. I was so impressed with that car. Then later on down the line, in 2023, they brought out this car, right? And when they launched a new BMW 2 Series, it's like, BMW seemed to do a very, very good job of bringing cars out and everyone disliking the looks initially, yeah? It's like they know, initially everyone's gonna not like this car. They're gonna think, that's ugly, that ain't for me. And they've done it time and time again. I remember when the G60 BMW 5 Series came out, I remember looking at that, I was like, I don't like that. For the first time I saw it, and then it just grew on me, and then I began to love the look of it. The G80 M3s, for example, when they first come out, the grille, everyone criticised the grille. The whole front end of that car got so much criticism, but it's like BMW was just in the background saying, do you know what, they're gonna like this soon, they're gonna get used to it, and they're gonna absolutely love it. And the 2 Series was the same. The M2, yeah, when they brought this car out, so the 2 Series was already a good looking car, the 240i in particular, they look wonderful in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts on the looks of these cars in the comments below. But initially, I was questioning it. I was thinking that is a bit brave. And then when they brought out the M2 with the fatter arches and the better looks and just a chunkier version of the 2 Series, I think they nailed it, man. So if we break this car or this video down into pieces, we're gonna start off with the front end of the car, we're then gonna look at the back end, then we're gonna go inside, we're gonna touch on the engine bay as well and the gearbox, and then after we've done all the talking about the looks and the visuals of this car, we're gonna hit the road and go for a little drive in it. So the front end, yeah? The grills have gone for sort of a slightly different look on the grills of this car because generally, BMW have got long grills, whereas on the M2, they're sort of flat and wide, almost like a bloody, what's the shark? Hammerhead shark. It is like that at the front. And because it's so wide, it just has so much road presence. The chunkiness of them arches, and I talk about this so much in videos, BMW do such a bloody good job of fattening cars and creating curves in right places. So the front end, nice and chunky, the headlights are lovely, the grills are beautiful, and the way that it sits, like if you looked out the rear view mirror of your car and you had that front end behind you, that looks aggressive. As we come down to the side of the car, we've got 19-inch wheels on the front, it's running Pirelli P0 tyres, by the way, which are great in the weather today, but not very good winter tyres, but that's irrelevant. What have we got? What size have we got? 275 35 19s on the front, and as we come to the rear, oh by the way, we're going to be talking about, nearly fell over there, we're going to be talking about the cost of this car, because you're going to be shocked how affordable this thing is to own. We'll do that when we get in the car shortly. 285 30/20s on the rear. And as you're driving down the road, you look in your side mirror and you look at them arches. In fact, you don't even look at them arches. They're an eyesore. Every time you look in your mirror, you just see a big, fat, chunky rear quarter, which is lovely. That's what we want to see. I've gone past the carbon roof. It's got a bloody carbon roof as well. All this character, all these features, this car just offers so much. The rear of the car, yeah? BMW, bloody brave that was, making this car look like this. But as you stand at the rear of this car, I feel like M2s in general, like if you look back at we won't go as far back as the 1M, but the OG M2, the proportions of that car, the presence of it was just perfect. And even from a driving point of view, it is the most perfect car to drive. And this is the newer version of it, yeah? So we're gonna talk about expectations as well quickly, because my expectations of this when I got in it was massive, yeah? I love the look of them, I know what an M2 is about in general, and when I drove it, big black quad pipes at the back as well. Again, really chunky, really bold. And the rear lights, brave design that was, very, very brave design. But BMW, you've done it again, you pulled it off, well done. It's got keyless entry, the keys are currently inside the car, so the car is already unlocked. It is brand new, and just to highlight the fact that it's brand new, it's still got the trim stickers on the door shuts there. So as we open the door, let's quickly talk about the width of this door shut. So I recently bought an Audi R8 and I like to focus on features of cars, right? And when you open the door of an Audi R8, let's go back to the Audi R8, the door sills are chunky, but you expect that on an Audi R8 because it's a bloody supercar, yeah? The M2 it's just got width here. It's got real width and I like that. So as you step in, you're stepping over. On the inside, should we do the bonnet first, Amar? Should we do the bonnet, yeah? The bonnet, guys. Look at that. BMW M-Power just stamped on the top of the engine there. So this is the S58 engine, which is also in all of the modern sort of not all of the modern, most of the modern M cars, the X3M, which I've done a video on recently. Also the M4 competition and the M3, right? This one in particular produces 450 horsepower, whereas the M3 produces about 500 brake horsepower. And it is also a straight six twin turbocharged engine. It's rear wheel drive as well, which is amazing. And what's different about this car compared to the early M2s is this has got a ZF gearbox. It's actually an 8-speed ZF gearbox. The gears changes are super sharp. Obviously I'll display that when we go out for a drive shortly. It's just such a good gearbox. And it's no criticism to the DCTs in the earlier cars, but DCTs have almost got a bit of, they don't have a delay, they just have a bit of drag into gear. And when you tune a car, which a lot of us do, we like to get more power out of our cars, then the weak point generally is the clutch. And on a DCT, you just notice that slight drag. And they're an amazing gearbox. DCTs in M2s and M2 competitions, the previous gens are amazing, but that is something that I would say BMW have improved with this car, right? Now back in on the interior. We're just gonna soak in the interior of this car, because when I initially got in this car, and bear in mind, I was so into them. I think they're such a good looking, I know I've talked about the look so much of these cars. With a set of spacers and lowered a little bit, they just have so much road presence, but I've never sat in the driver's seat of one. I've seen them at car shows, I've put my head through windows of cars, had a little look at them, and this was the first time I sat in it. And when I first got in, I was just like, the interior is just such a nice place to be. If you sit in a BMW 2 Series now, it's a nice car. Strangely, although this is the same car essentially, it just feels so much better in here. The big screen, the big twin screen, which does so much. In fact, it does probably too much. It's a little bit complicated, but I've got my head around that in the time that I've spent with it. Loads of carbon, loads of little features as well, like character. Let's highlight the word character again, because on the door cards, again, they make so much effort. There's like a textured feature here. I didn't notice this initially, so I got in and I was just sitting there, soaking it all in. And the first thing that my eyes were drawn to was the M-coloured, what would we describe that as? M-coloured pattern on the speaker grille there, which actually lights up at night. It's also got blue stitching, which I think is a spec option. We'll bring up specs shortly. But yeah, this little detail here, I really like that. It's also got Harman Kardon. I'm pretty sure that's a standard spec, but again, we'll go through options shortly. And generally, the comfort of the seats, this doesn't have the carbon seats, by the way, but you don't feel like you're missing anything by not having the carbon seats. These are super comfortable. And it ain't like Audi where they put like really basic looking seats in their RS cars and then they give you the option to upgrade your really basic seats. Whereas BMW, the lower seat, I'm not even gonna say it doesn't look bad. It looks brilliant, yeah? These seats are very attractive, they're very comfortable, they look like bucket seats, but you do also have the option, if you wish, to spend the extra money and get carbon seats. Steering wheel is as well, by the way, really nice, and it is super fresh, that I've mentioned so many times. When I first got in it, I was touching the steering. I've never felt a steering wheel so new in my life. Now, I think at this point, what we should do is talk about specs, right? Because shout out to Steve at SYTNER BMW in Tring. He's the manager there. He's a lovely guy. He's a subscriber to the channel. I've been having lots of conversations with him about various cars, but obviously this one included. So he sent me an email this morning because I just queried a few things. One was, what's the spec on this car? Because it seems to have a really nice spec level. And two, how much would it cost to buy this car? So his email this morning: hi Calvin, hope you're enjoying the M2. Yes, Steve, I'm absolutely loving it, mate.
Now, usually at this point in the video, we'll be doing a car vertical check, but unfortunately, because this is a brand new car, the M2 is probably a bad use of example for car vertical. This, however, is a perfect example. It's a 2015 Alfa Romeo Giulietta, and looking at the pictures of it in this car dealer ad, it looks pretty good. But after doing a car vertical check, you'll see that back in 2018, it was in a salvage auction, and it looked like it'd been in a pretty bad front end accident. With car vertical, you can see the car was previously damaged, and when you scroll down, you'll see that this car wasn't damaged once, it was damaged twice, making it a Category S structurally damaged car. If you want to ensure that your car that you're buying doesn't have any horrible history, I'll link car vertical in the description below. Make sure you use my code CCD to get a discount.
Here's the spec list as requested. So sapphire black, which I can't even believe I've not touched on the colour of this car. Black car with black wheels, obviously with a staggered fitment on the wheels as well. Just looks so good. So yeah, love sapphire black. It's a very glossy sort of metallic colour. Looks the part. Black with blue stitching on the interior, which we've just touched on. Red brake calipers. Oh, I didn't even notice that. I think black cars with little red touches always look good, so I could do a couple of little red hashtag on it stickers on the windows, couldn't it? I might have to slap a couple on there before we go out. So it's got the heated steering wheel, which is a random option that I've always thought, is that a bit excessive? Is it pointless? But I actually use a heated steering wheel. Like, I think, you know what, I've got it, I'll use it. Obviously not this time of year, but it is a nice option. Comfort access, adaptive LED headlights, park assist with surround cameras, which is amazing. Harman Kardon, so that was actually an option to have Harman Kardon. And the list price of this car is £66,480. To buy this car, brand new from BMW, on a PCP deal, it would cost you an £800 deposit, £799 to be precise, and £799 a month for 48 months. And at the end of that, there's the balloon. You can either pay the balloon or give the car back. I look at them numbers and I think it's a brand new BMW M2. £799 is your only initial commitment at the beginning of the deal. And then, don't get me wrong, £799 a month is a lot of money. That's like mortgage money to some people, or rent, whatever you do. But it's a bloody brand new BMW M2. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna hit the road. I'm gonna talk about the way this thing drives, because that is the most impressive part of this car, right? Let's hit the road.
Guys, sorry, let me just pause it there quickly. So many of you have still not yet hit the subscribe button, and I have absolutely no idea why. But I believe in you guys. I know you can do it. I know you can. Just hit it right now, and let's get back on with the video.
Actually, before we head out, I just want to say that it's not very often that I drive a stock car and say that it doesn't need tuning. This car, the way it delivers power, the way it drives, and the overall performance of it, it is perfect. It is absolutely perfect. I don't think I've ever said that about a stock car, but this, I'll show you now, yeah? Oh, red light, how annoying. Also, what's annoying is as soon as we headed out for the drive, it actually trucked it down with rain. The rain sort of died off a little bit, but it has left us with damp road, which is a little bit frustrating. But it doesn't really matter because it's not going to affect us too much. So let me quickly touch on the subject of the sort of the anxiety around driving a fresh, brand new car. That anxiety's gone, all right? When I first picked this car up, it had done, I think 801 miles. It's now just done just over 900 miles. It had 60 miles in the range when I picked it up, and it's got just over 60 miles in the range, and it's still, and in that period, I put in about 30 litres of fuel in it. So it gives you an idea about fuel economy for those that care. Showing just over 20 miles to a gallon on the MPG there. That's just general day-to-day driving. I have had a little bit of fun in it, but not too much, because it hasn't yet gone over the 1200 mile recommended manufacturer range of mileage before you can really open it up. But they did say before I took it away that, Calvin, you'll be absolutely fine to have some fun in it because it's had its running in service early. So I am having a little bit of fun in it, but not too much. And that does also mean that I am not going to be doing draggy times today because I don't want to just hammer this car through the gears, rev it out all the way because it's brand new, and you know, want to make the right impression on the manufacturer as well. You know, I'm sitting there reaching out and saying, Calvin, you know what, here's another car. So we're going to play it safe. We're going to be sensible, guys, within reason, of course, whilst still displaying the true personality of the M2. All right, so we'll quickly touch on the sound subject because that's something that gets criticised a lot online. And if you want to have a moan at anyone about the sound of this car, moan at the bloody government, because BMW, if they had it their way, they'd be giving you a big fat V8 with no turbo, and they probably wouldn't put an exhaust on it, yeah? A bit like the old V8 M3s. When you decap one of them, they sound incredible. That is what BMW M are all about. In this car, it does have a very nice engine tone, but the exhaust note, because of all the filters and stuff, it is sort of dampened down a little bit frustrating, but obviously, once you've got your car, you know, you can take it to your local VRS or whoever it is you deal with, get all the filters cut out, and it will sound wonderful, yeah? But out of the factory, it's just a little bit mellow. Now let's talk about the whole infotainment system, because this is a massive feature in this car. When you initially get into the car, you're just wowed by it. It's just massively in your face. You've got the big screen to your left, or in the centre of the cockpit there. You've then got the big screen in front of you as the driver, which is all pretty standard stuff. But each one of these screens is super impressive because you've also got the head-up display as well, which is a really nice layout. It's really crisp, really clear, and it's not too intruding either. Some head-up displays are a bit in your way, in your face, but sometimes you find yourself driving and not even realising it's there, which is really good. When I initially went into the nav menu, it is all a little bit overwhelming, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of apps in here, a lot of different features, and I have not explored a lot, hardly any of it in fact, but I can tell you that it's impressive. There's a lot that you can do, but it is very, very easy to get your head around, so don't feel too sort of put off by that. There is a few analog buttons down here, nothing too major, but it is all very nice and very easy to use. And what is also very nice is it's actually got an analog toggle down here, so you can still manually or sort of old-fashionedly navigate your way through the whole sat-nav system, which is really nice. I've mentioned before, like in a Land Rover, for example, they don't have that, and I think it's so handy when you're sat here with your arm on your armrest and you're chilling. You don't want to be reaching forward and pressing buttons on the screen or pressing the screen. You don't want to do that. You want to chill, and this is so just perfectly placed under your hand, and you can scroll your way through the nav menu and do what you've got to do on your infotainment system, which is really good. Now, the M mode, let's go back to home. I've got the hang of it. Buttons down here. We've got buttons, guys. Proper buttons. Not loads of them, not too many, but we've got buttons, yeah? Physical buttons, which is what I like to see. So I have the M1 button set up. Obviously, you can customise it to however you want it, but Calvin way is the engine is in Sport, not Sport Plus, because otherwise it's a little bit too sensitive. The suspension's in Comfort, so for road use, it's comfortable, it's nice. The steering is also in Comfort, and then the brakes are in Sport, okay? So it's set up just how I like it, and trust me, the way it drives in that mode is absolutely wonderful. Now the gearbox, there's kind of like not really one mode that suits all, but then I'll say that there kind of is, because you've got 3 different settings on the gearbox, right? The lowest setting is obviously the slowest setting, right? Then you've got a slightly faster one in the middle, and then the fastest one at the top. When you put it in M1 mode, it just wants to be on S3, which is the sports gearbox with the fastest gear change. And I just find when you're in M1 mode, you get the full sound, the full effect, you know, the full performance of the car, but the gear change, the gearbox being in that sporty mode, it's just a bit too much. But not too much when you're higher in the rev range. When you're higher in the rev range, you need the sharpest gear changes. But when you're just chilling, like you are, like I am right now, and I'm actually currently in Speed 2. Speed 2's nice, you know, see that gear change? It's just nice, it's just calm, it's collective. But then if you're in Speed 2, this is the mode that I choose, by the way, this is why I'm doing this whole speech about the gearbox, because it needs it. You also got the joy or the pleasure of flat in your throttle, yeah, and still getting wonderful fast gear changes. So I would recommend, if you buy and own an M2, I'll just run it in the second speed of the gearbox setting, yeah. If you're doing drag racing, then you want the full whack. And in fact, what I want to touch back on is the whole M2 subject. I've always thought, going back to the 1M, that was made in limited numbers. That was a really special car. And when the M2 come out, I just assumed that they'd done the same with that. It just looks super special. They are a special car, but they mass-produced the M2. And even with this car here, they just look like they should be a collector's piece. They don't look like a mass-produced car. They look unique, they look one-off, they just look special. And even the price point, I feel like they're great value for money. And I feel like in this video, a lot of people watch this and think, oh, that car's for me. I'm 6'2", by the way, and I'm sitting in it all right. I feel comfortable, got plenty of headroom, leg room's good. I've got the seat the whole way back, granted, but I'm comfortable. I'm very, very comfortable. I've not even, going back to the gears, I didn't even mention the gear shifters. They're carbon fibre and they're lovely as well, by the way. But the overall package and what this car offers for the price point, 65, 70,000 pounds, I just think it's such a cool car, man. And then finally, I quickly want to touch on the power delivery of this car. It's obviously 450 brake horsepower, it's plenty of power. It ain't gonna catch you out though. The power delivery is very consistent, very linear, but it's kind of punchy but not spiky. Ain't gonna catch you out, ain't gonna get you in trouble, but it's such good power delivery. I can't do too much because one, I'm in a car that's done less than 1,000 miles, and two, well, it ain't my car, and three, I've got a BMW 118D in front of me that is chilling. So, but yeah, there's that to talk about as well. But I feel like I've done so much talking. There's probably so much more I could say. But yeah, massively impressed with the car. One more thing, there is one more thing. The shift lights. It's got shift lights on the dash. There's still more that I want to say, but I'm going to have to let you go. Oh, well, I'm not going to let you go. I was going to say the sat-nav on the screen, yeah? It also shows sat-nav on the screen in front of you, and it also shows sat-nav on the head-up display. So the directions, you're never going to get lost in this car. It tells you where you got to go in so many different ways, all right? So don't worry, if you buy a brand new M2, you're not going to get lost either. You're going to enjoy your journey, and you ain't going to get lost, all right? So that is it. We are definitely now done. I feel like off the back of this video, so many people are going to be rushing to their local BMW dealership to place an order on a new M2. If you are one of them people, please go to SYTNER BMW in Tring, or go to any of the SYTNER BMWs. But if you go to Tring, speak to my man Steve, or Kaiser as well. Kaiser works there, but Kaiser I don't think sells cars. But they're a lovely bunch of people. I will link them in the description below. Thank you very much to Steve and everyone at SYTNER BMW for letting me have the keys to his car. I've massively enjoyed it. It's made some great memories and it's made great videos. And that is it, the end of my time with the BMW M2. Oh look, it's just locked itself, comfort access. We didn't do a hashtag key check, did we? Look, hashtag key check, look at that. Looks like I've just had another brand new one arrive in as a bit of stock. It's time to hand the key back. Sad times, man. Now to conclude this video, as much as I absolutely love the M2, I won't be buying one myself. Why? Because it's simply not the car for me. For me personally, a car that's more me is either an M3 Touring or an M8 competition. So my car shopping trip at BMW will continue in a later video. Make sure you hit subscribe to see where I end up.